Hello, welcome to Coffee with Jude. In this episode, we're going to talk about the truth, writing the truth in memoir. Everyone knows that memoir is a true story. If it's not true, then it's fiction. So the question is, what exactly is the truth? Your memory can be slippery and turn things around, and you can have questions about things that happened in the past, and it could be different than what your family thought, but you just need to write what you know and don't worry about what others are going to think, because that's all you have to base it on, is just what you know, and the truth will find itself. There's a wonderful book called Handling the Truth by Beth Kephart. Let me read a little bit from the beginning of her book. This is called Read to Write. Once I had a friend. Yes, once. It had occurred to her to write a book, a memoir in particular, and so she called asking for help. It should be fun, she said. I set to work creating a list of the memoirs my friend might read, for she hadn't read even so much as a single memoir yet. And I thought reading might be helpful. I sent the list, and that was that. The end of the memoir and of the friendship. I don't mean to be insulting when I suggest that memoir writers should read memoir, but there they are, my annoying politics. Stories live inside the pages of memoirs, and so do strategies, tactics, fine little experiments with points of view and tense. I'm a little bit sorry, but the facts are the facts. You have to read memoir to write it. I read in the earliest part of the day, before my husband stirs, before the glisten on the grass burns off, before anybody anywhere can suggest a different agenda. I read outside on the old chaise lounge, or on the slatted sloping deck, or on my side of the bed, turned toward the breeze and the clean pink morning light. Doesn't that sound delicious? I want to do that. I want to make that a habit. So watch this little video about handling the truth. The main component of memoir is that it's a true story. It has to be the utter truth as you remember it. I know that our memories are not perfect, but if you are honest with yourself and you know that it's true, you believe it's true, it's material for memoir. It's really tempting sometimes when you're writing, and this happened to me when I started out. I thought I didn't remember enough. It was, 50 years ago that this happened to me, this teenage pregnancy. And so when I started thinking about the Home for Unwed Mothers, it was just like drawing a blank. I remembered little snippets of like sitting out in the backyard and on the lawn chairs in the sun and putting coconut oil on our bodies. But we didn't really talk much or socialize because they told us that we couldn't tell each other our last names, and we were discouraged from becoming friends. But I couldn't remember anything that I thought would make it interesting. So I imagined this could have happened. There were rumors in the Home for Unwed Mothers about a 14-year-old girl that got abused. And so I made up a scene in the backyard. She told the story of how the abuse happened with her uncle. And it kind of blew me away that I had that deep of an understanding of how a victim can be nurtured or primed for this to happen. And so it was well written and it was a good story. But later on, when I understood that I had to be totally honest to myself in my writing, I couldn't make up anything, because if I did, it wouldn't be as powerful to me and probably to the reader. And so I took that out. And then I had another instance staying with this older couple, Helen and Ed, in this one-horse town in Wisconsin, and I wasn't able to go out or socialize. I stayed home a lot and worked on my homework, and I was so horribly bored. And I didn't know how to write that. I sat down on the bed and I looked out the window and the snow was falling. Big, huge flakes were coming down. I thought, no, that's not boring. That sounds peaceful. That sounds entertaining if I had enough wherewithal to notice those beautiful flakes falling down. So I got an idea to have a stuffed animal, and I called it Muffy. And so Muffy and I would sit down on the bed and I'd say to Muffy, you know, we're in this together. And so it was a way for me to show outwardly, to show my boredom and my loneliness and my sadness. And so I took a memoir class at the Loft in Minneapolis, and I asked my teacher, is it okay to have a Muffy, like a stuffed animal that you really didn't have? Because I was 16 and no way I was going to be taking a stuffed animal with me. I thought that was babyish. It served the story well, and as a way to illustrate my emotions. Was that okay to use that in the story? And she said, no. And I was like, so embarrassed. I was thinking, oh, everybody in the class is going to think I'm making up this whole book. And so I took that part out because it wasn't true. Even though it really worked well with the writing, it just wasn't true. And you all might remember the story about James Frey, who wrote the book A Million Little Pieces. He came on Oprah, and the supposed memoir was a huge hit. And then it came out not too long after that that he had made up, it was, they said, semi-fictionalized. And he came back on Oprah, and it was so painful to watch him try to justify that, calling it a memoir when it wasn't a memoir. And he said the publisher told him to do that. They said it would sell better. So anyway, memoir just has to be the truth. You can't make stuff up. It does not work for memoir. It's your story, and it's your truth as you know it.